Hey everyone, Mr. Devil here, Kenny Danico.
Yeah, nothing? Okay.
Hey everyone, Mr. Devil here, Kenny Danico, 3-time Stanley Cup champion of the New Jersey Devils, and you're listening to the Uncle Puckers New Jersey Devils podcast with Chris, Dan, Bobby, and Tony, the Uncle Puckers. Let's go Devils!
We used to blast this song in your Trans Am.
Oh, yeah. It just made me happy again. I was kind of bummed for a second. I got some Metallica. We definitely need to work on that sound quality, but great song.
Yeah, I don't know why it comes out so screwed up out of the Bluetooth, but yeah, we're the Uncle Puckers, Bob, Dan, Chris. Yeah, rough loss, man. This was tough. We just finished watching the Devils lose to the Kings in a valiant losing effort, 2-1. Yeah, that one hurts. But you know, you move on and get going for Saturday night. But what were your thoughts on the game, Dan? We'll start with you, buddy. What do you think?
I think looking at this team this year, we're always missing something you need to win, but it's not always the same thing. So now I'm looking at this team. They got great goaltending. They got really excellent team defense, and the scoring's not there. Right. And meanwhile, we're losing, games 7-8, stuff like that. Previously, no goaltending, poor team defense, but tons of scoring. So, that's one. It just looks like one of those games where LA is playing a really great defensive game, and it's going to take a lot to score. And we just looked a little too tense on the offensive side of the puck. I mean, I think, the whole play with Jack epitomized that. It's so intense and maybe stressed that we're not even reaching our potential offensively, feeling a little snake pit when it comes to scoring.
Bob?
Yeah, I thought, the first half of the game, we were just outworked a little bit. It wasn't that they were playing terrible, just really getting hemmed in and everything by LA. It was playing a heavy game. Things opened up a little bit. Seeing Jack get fiery is good. My biggest takeaway from this is Nico the Glove Daws. He looked just fantastic. Some of those saves were incredible. I know, Chris, you were texting. You texted a little joke. Is that a 3 or a 5 on the back of his jersey, which I didn't get. I took literal. And I'm like looking up what his number was because I forgot because I'm a jackass. But it's funny because right before you sent that text, that particular glove save, that was the one at like 9:20 left in the period. I think it looked in my mind. I'm like, wow, that looks exactly like a Brodeur glove save.
There's a lot about his game that now, Dan, you're the goalie. Okay. I'm the layman that watches this for a living, but to me, I see so much in the little bit that we've seen Daws that does remind me of Brodeur, and a few things like not just his style. He's very calm. He is just, you can tell nothing kind of gets by him. Nothing gets to him, but the no rebounds when the team, how many times all season long are we pinned in our own end and we cannot get the puck out? And, VTech just can't stop this puck and can't get the whistle. He does it, freezes the puck, allows the change, little things that help your team win that we weren't getting before. And really, I know a lot of good goalies do it, but we really haven't seen it since Brodeur. So when I see Daws kind of playing in that style, and he does kind of remind me of him, and again, I'm not giving Daws, there's no comparison. I'm just saying there are a few things that I watch him and I'm like, kind of look like Marty over there. Am I wrong?
Not even just Marty, but kind of like the throwback era of goaltending, like that whole era where a bunch of guys with those flashy gloves. I just got a flashback to the 90s watching that.
Yeah, I agree.
His performance was just great tonight. He, I'll be honest, we had no reason being in that game. If you look at an average goaltending performance, he came up with huge saves to keep us in this game, to get us, within almost tying it and winning it. And you're not going to do that without a great performance. His style I like it a lot. It's a lot more fluid than what you see from the typical blocking style butterfly goalies. Now, Bruno's a little different. I mean, he's a hybrid mix,
Right.
a little bit of stand up. I did the half butterfly a lot. You're not going to see really anybody do that stuff anymore. But I do see him, maybe a little bit less mechanical than others. He definitely is a little more fluid in his motions and calm, and I like that. And I can see why it's a little reminiscent of Marty. I like his game a lot. He's been great, and I can see why they played him so much recently. I'll tell you what, I would not mind riding him as much as possible because he's been giving you great games. Let's see him emerge, win or lose here tonight. You can't pin anything on him. He was fantastic.
Just got himself a Stadium Series start, I'm sure.
Yeah, well,
so.
Vitek's out. So yeah, they did say that Vitek would definitely be out the next couple of games. So it looks like, Daws will be in Saturday against the Flyers, which now that game, I was really hoping that, maybe after that game, maybe Toronto wins tonight and we kind of get within 2 points. And it didn't happen. But,
no, because Toronto went off. They're winning 3-1. They went off and did a Leaf-like thing and I guess took a 5-minute major. Philly scored twice on it to take it to overtime. So they did wind up losing overtime, but they got that extra point.
Philly did lose?
Philly did lose.
Just checking. Okay, so they got 1 point. We didn't get any. And I really thought tonight we were going to, we were pressing. But, look, you're playing a team in LA that is a damn good team that has been really playing poorly these last probably like 2 month or so, the last probably 15 games for these guys, maybe even longer than a month. So they've really been struggling. They go their last 2 games, they shut out Edmonton 3-0, and then they got their just doors blown off by Buffalo 7-0. Yeah. You knew going into this game, you weren't going to get the LA Kings that gave up 7 goals to the Buffalo Sabres. You were going to get their best effort. And they
got embarrassed, so they came out. Yep.
It's funny what you said, Dan, because about we just always kind of just seem to be that, ass hair away from, a complete team, a complete performance, a complete everything. And it's like you watched, we got the best of the Carolina Hurricanes on Saturday. They gave us their best, and we were just there, so close. And tonight, I think we got the best LA Kings. LA is not an offensive team. They're not going to go out there and throw 5 or 6 up. They're going to play defense. They're going to clog up the neutral zone. They're going to, get timely goaltending.
Do they ever, man?
And they did it to a T tonight. And, throughout the course of the game, I thought we started getting more pressure. We started figuring it out a little bit. They started getting a little bit tired, and our pressure is relentless. But we just couldn't get any real good looks tonight. And the one good look we did have, I think Jack was just so fired up. Like he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't.
It's funny because that's exactly what you'd want to happen, right? You come out, just score it, like
no doubt.
In the bird. But he was just too hyped up,
and he was also, I think, really pissed off that he's on that breakaway. And look, it's one thing to play, a good defensive.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. He was held like 3 different times on the way to that net, and I get it. LA's playing a game where they're doing so much of what the league says they don't want that the refs can't call it all, and that's the kind of game they're playing. So when you're playing a team like that, you have to have an answer for it, and this is not the kind of team, and I don't think they should be. They're not built this way to answer in kind, and that's only going to get you put in the box. We win the box a couple times. The last one with Lazar, I think there was nothing he could do to avoid taking that penalty because of where it was. Yeah. There were a couple penalties, Hollis, that was maybe not the smartest. There was a reactionary one earlier. I'm trying to remember who took it. It was not the smartest, but we escaped those without letting a goal in. But it's kind of ridiculous that the league says they want to stop all these kind of clutching and grabbing. But LA showed if you come out there and do it like almost 100% of the time, you're going to get away with a high percentage of it. And refs do have a tendency to even up the penalties no matter what happens.
And there was, I forget, I think I had it written down, but there was one moment where, again, it was one of those situations where the Devils had just come off a power play. Right. I think it was a hold or a hook or something. They just blatantly let it go.
Yeah.
And I think I think maybe that was the one that wound up being on Lazar. It is funny, too, because I think 5-on-5, even though they kind of had the better of us for a while there, this really loss was a special teams loss, really, because they had a shorthanded goal, the power play goal. And of all the times for us to go 1 for 5,
Right.
or 1 for 6, 1 for 5, right? I mean, and I know we've been doing that a lot lately, but considering where we started the year,
Yeah.
you just bury one more of those, that's a whole different game. Or at the most, don't give up that shorthanded goal. That was a real killer.
Yeah.
The shorthanded goal was rough. But again, you look at those, you only let 2 in. You should win this game.
Absolutely.
And that's really what it comes down to. They couldn't find the back of the net. I mean, there's not much to really bitch about for the Devils' play. I mean, I thought
There was a lot of effort. I was happy with the effort, really, from everyone,
and,
top to bottom. Everybody skated hard.
LA was the better team tonight by 1 goal. It was just that simple.
And this is the shit we talked about all year. Like, you can live with these types of games, the tough games that we're losing now, considering the way we've been playing for the last couple of weeks. The problem was we put ourselves in such a hole. It's getting so late. Now you got to squeak out that 1 point or 2 points. Yeah. And you can't just sit here and go, acceptable loss. They played really hard, because, like Dan said, we are running out of time.
Yeah,
you need to string something together.
Yeah. I think offensively, too, another thing they should remember as they're struggling against a good defensive team is to keep it simple. They went for the extra pass a couple of times, and part of a good simple strategy is just get a body in front of the net and just look for trouble. Try to make trouble for the defensive team, getting deflections and things like that. They did kind of move to that, but they didn't sustain it. Later in the game,
it took about 10 minutes left in the game for them to just start firing.
Realize you're not going to get tic-tac-toe plays against this team.
No, not against this team. And it hurt them tonight. But again, you come off playing a bunch of, few really good games. You had a couple of tough losses involved, like the Carolina and tonight. But the biggest game so far this not young season anymore, but this season is Saturday night. Like, they've got to be ready for the Philadelphia Flyers team.
I would hope we see more out of Timo too, because this was kind of game where he, at his best, can be a real big factor. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of forward we need in a game like this when you're playing against a really good defense.
And I thought he had his best game of the year against Nashville.
Right, which is something to build on. Right.
And he kind of goes away. Brat's another one that kind of goes away sometimes. And it just seemed like it was, if Jack didn't do it, nobody was going to do it tonight. It was kind of that feeling, but backpedal a little bit, or talk about shift gears a little. Like, there has been, so much talk about Jacob Markstrom, and now we know that there was, some serious conversations, and it kind of looks to me like that's a dead deal. Now it does kind of seem like when Calgary came here to play, it looked like what the reporting is coming out now, that it was like, okay, we're going to talk to Jacob because this thing's going to happen. And he okayed it. And then the deal went to shit, I guess, over the money or whatever. So what does Tom Fitzgerald do now?
Well, apparently he signs, who was that?
Oh yeah. Who did we just sign?
I don't know. Looks like I don't see an answer coming, that we're just going to hope Daws is the man for the rest of the year. I mean, actually, you got reason to believe that now.
That's
but
my next question do you think that Daws can be the guy?
I mean, I think
he might have to be. To tell. Isaac
it
Coulter, that's what I thought. Yeah,
yes,
Isaac
right.
Coulter.
I think he might have to be. I'm getting less hopeful, like you said, that not only the Markstrom deal, but any deal will be made. And maybe long term, that's a good thing. I don't know. I was, not overly thrilled with getting who was out there this year. Markstrom was probably the best to come along that we talked about getting, since we were considering maybe could we get Hellebuck or something.
Well, new reporting now has that Fitzgerald has been on the horn with Barry Trotz over in Nashville for Yossi Soros. Now, apparently the ask for Soros would be big, and Barry Trotz is on record of saying, I talk to Tom a lot, and I keep reminding him that I don't need the goalie. He needs the goalie. So He needs to start, coughing up some I guess, whatever they're looking for.
What's the term on him?
I think he has 1 year after this year, and then that's it. So, if you feel like you can sign him like you did with Timo or whatever, then you have to make a move. But I don't want to give up a Dawson Mercer for a goalie for a year.
1 year, yeah.
It does make it really tough because I've always thought Daws was our next big goalie going back a few years ago.
Yeah.
And truth be told, last year, even when I first started coming on this podcast in the spring, I'd never heard of Schmidt. He wasn't on my radar. I knew of Daws. I was waiting for Daws. I figured he's got a few more years. So I'm really comfortable with the prospect of him being our everyday goalie, maybe within a few years, which means that if we can stopgap it, like a Markstrom 2 years or so, or something else, that might be good. And quite frankly, I know it's a very small sample size, but if the season just started now, this look of this team is completely different. And we don't need the best goaltender in the world, but what we're getting from Daws right now kind of actually looks like it. Let's be honest. I mean, some of the saves he's making are absolutely incredible. Not sustainable all year, but right now he's got that kind of, I'm coming in, trying to take the net, and he's coming up blazing.
Well, you look at all of his
hurting your
starts.
team.
No.
All right, I think he's had now. This is his 6th loss, so I think he's 5-6 now. So he's only had 11 games. But if you look at the 11 starts, the games that he lost were because we just did not help out and gave him no help in front. In the games where we played competent defensively in front of him, he's played good. Now the same can't be said for Vanacek because we played good defensively against Calgary and he just let in 4 or 5, however many it was. Yeah. But with Nico Daws, I feel like, again, you play good defense, he's going to give you a chance to win. And that's all you could ask for when it comes to goaltending. So, like the big names, right? The O.C. Saros, the Jacob Markstrom. We all love it. You get enamored with it. You want that guy on your team. But I agree with Dan on this one. Like, at this point, with where this team is and the uncertainty of the next 30 games, let's go with Nico Daws. Let's see, for once and for all, do we have an answering goal in-house? We thought we were going to do it with Schmid this year. Okay, Schmid answered the question. He's not our guy.
Right.
Vanacek, we went and got him thinking, okay, here's a good goalie. But we also always had questions about him. We always had things that, we knew, the guy can't play too much. And
that's literally the guy I thought was going to hold those couple years for Daws.
Right.
Yeah.
So Vanacek turns out, maybe a Vanacek on a much lighter schedule, Vanacek being a second goalie, a backup, maybe that's the role where he goes, but you still need that number one. I say go with Daws. At this point, I don't want to give up too much. I'd rather go and get a Hanifin or a Tanev or a good defenseman that can help this team, or stay pat. I'm fine with them staying pat.
Assuming they can continue to perform this new tweaked system well. Maybe not as good as they're doing, with letting up such few goals. But if they could, then the offense is going to come around. I mean, 7, 8 out of 10, we're normally going to score what we need to score in a game like this. So I'm not saying I still wouldn't want a stellar goalie, a concrete goalie that we can go in. But I think we might be better served with somebody more solid on defense, more character players.
How old is Daws? 24? 23. So, for hockey goalies, he's an infant.
Yeah.
Maybe he is the guy, though. Maybe,
it's just with the year they're having, too. When nothing seems to go right. If it's not an injury, it's defense lacking. It's, prior to getting Daws, it's definitely goaltending. It's offense coming and going. I also see them playing this new hard-nosed style, and I think some of our better players have to adapt to it. I think Jack has to adapt to it too. The game tonight was frustrating for him. He got a point. He was still very, very good.
Right.
But I think that, he's going to have to adapt to games like this with this system. It's a little different. Yeah. I think there's been a change in the way they're playing, and then it is a bit more defense first. So that has to come together. And I still have questions about the coaching. To be honest with you, the first, the first goal for LA. What happened? It's a shorthanded goal. They're out for almost the entire power play.
Yeah.
Now, there's one of two things: that Lindy doesn't want him out there that long, and they're not listening to him, or because the Hughes brothers are out and they're going to do what they're going to do, or Lindy wanted him out that long. Either way, I feel like that's not the best coaching move. Doesn't show him in the best light. I don't know what's going on with that. That's why I say the whole offense has to adapt along with the coaching.
I think it was Bryce or Dano that also said that at that particular moment, right before the shorthanded goal, they were, holding them pretty deep. They were looking pretty good, and they don't want to really change right then. Or maybe they're thinking you don't really want to change right then because you had a lot of pressure. But then they were exhausted. They go down the other end. I mean, Jack had a lot to do with that shorthanded goal going in, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was the second man in to tie up the rebound. Definitely.
All this talk of their new system that they threw on the fly, at the All-Star break, and now, like, all right, it's a defensive system, right? They're making sure that the centermen are not doing other too much in between outside the hash marks. Like, you need to stay home. You need to this is why Jack, I believe, is moved to the wing, right? Because they don't want him to be taking that spot in the front of the net. You want him on the outside. So like all the forwards or centermen are all kind of playing a lot more responsible and just where people are and whatever. And, to me, I look at this and I'm like, they're talking about a complete overhaul. Like, this is what we're, Lindy changed the whole system. He didn't change the whole system.
Correction a little bit.
He coached, which is what he should have fucking been doing,
right?
Back in December. And now we're rolling into February, staring up at the standings. And, look, the season starts in October, and everybody says, if you're not in the playoffs by, Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, your chances of making it are blah, blah. If you're not in the playoffs position by Christmas, your, chances of making it are, even less. We're past Valentine's Day, and we have not been in the playoffs for one day. Right. Like, now,
that's why
you're making the changes. Like, it's not like we were one of the best teams in the league, and we were, been on a 10 games, kind of shit run, and we're not getting some points, and you got to change something. This has been all year. Like, why now in February?
Well, I'll tell you why now, because
it changed something.
It's because too, like, they never acknowledge reality, in my opinion. Like, they were winning games with this, approach of just, we'll score more. It's just not going to be sustainable. And then you get a couple injuries, and the guys who score more are out. Okay, now what do we do? And, they're trying to find something. They're just waiting. Well, wait till we get healthy. Even Lindy's going, well, we've had a lot of injuries. Well, you get him back, and then you realize, this late in the season when everybody's starting to formulate playoff hockey, and it doesn't look like preseason anymore. It doesn't look like October hockey. You're playing against teams that are playing more like LA did tonight. And you do need to play a tighter game. So, like, you're right. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. You've revamped at this point when you should have had a better system in place all year long. And I'm seeing the injuries are just only part of it. They were like hiding the fact that we had a lack of a good system.
But don't the injuries that we went through this year make you, like, this confuses me even more. Why wasn't this stuff implemented earlier when you weren't getting the goals, when the guys, when the Myers and Eishers and Hughes, when these guys were out of the lineup, why were you still trying to play the exact same system that you were playing when you were with these, when these guys were in the lineup?
It's a legit question. Totally legit question.
Especially when those talents are made for that kind of system. Yes. So without them, makes it even more difficult.
And now you see, like, all this praise. Oh, Lindy Ruff with this new system. Are you serious? Like, we are still out of a playoff spot. Thank God they're playing better. But, we've been screaming on this show since November. Like, something has to change. You have to do something, Lindy. You cannot just keep on running out the same product and the same style every night and expect different results. And now that things are changing, I just think it very well could be a little too late.
And all year we've been blaming people, who are not there for why we're not playing well. And so even like a lot of the trade talk that we're looking at now, I'm just thinking, if I'm Fitzgerald, I think you got what you need, and except for putting it together. I think I'm not putting any more into this team until I get somebody who can put it together. And I'm really talking about coaching. So if he doesn't want to make that move this year, and honestly, as time runs out, it becomes less and less likely it's even a good move to make. Maybe it is cruise out this year, get as good as you can with the team you got, try to help some leaders evolve and do some kind of coaching change, in the future. That is kind of a depressing thought, but I mean, maybe between that and doing nothing and, going big and not making the playoffs with a, rental player it costs you a lot and blowing up your future. There's probably some balance in between those two things, doing nothing and doing a whole lot for nothing. No results.
I think that the team that we saw tonight on the ice can make the playoffs. I do. I think they can make the playoffs. What they can do in the playoffs, I have no idea. But I think they can make the playoffs. And if I kind of agree with you. You have to look, and we've said this about so many other teams, right, throughout the year. As a general manager, you have to look at your team and you have to be logical and you have to be smart and you have to be honest.
Yeah, realistic.
Does my team have a chance of winning the Stanley Cup? And if that answer is no, then you have to pump the brakes a little bit. And that's where I feel like with this team, they're not going to win the Stanley Cup this year. They're just not. They're not there. Unless, okay, I know the whole, well, they can go on a run. And yes, they can. But they haven't shown any kind of signs that that's going to happen. This
is actually their most significant sign. And it's not even a run.
Right.
It's just a general way of playing.
We're still not gaining points. We're still not climbing the standings.
Right. It's to me, Philadelphia is catchable, but Philadelphia is playing really good hockey. Now, if we had maybe another 10 or 12 games to go, I think maybe with Carter Hart not being there that we can catch up to them. But they're not losing.
It's the whole playing with house money thing, right? They weren't supposed to be there. They know that. They're just going out and doing their thing. They were down 3-1 to Toronto. They get the 5-minute major, and they're like, fuck it, let's score 2. And they did, you know what I mean? They just go.
And this is what worries me about Saturday night, being that it is such a big game. As far as an event, okay? This isn't just coming into the Rock and playing. This is an event. The whole world's going to be – well, not the whole world, but, most of North America is going to be checking this game out. So they're going to be watching this. Who's the pressure on?
Right from the start. Who's gripping their sticks tighter? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's Devils. The Devils. Devils 100%. Are supposed to win this game. The Devils are, below the playoffs looking up. Philadelphia is like, come get us.
Yeah,
what are you
we're still here. Pick up another point tonight.
Philadelphia's mindset's got to be, even if we don't make the playoffs this year, we are still in a better situation than you are.
Yeah, and we want to keep you from getting in, of course.
So, something like this, they got to keep playing the way they're playing and see how it goes. But I'm just I get so annoyed with all these people going, the new system this, the new system that. You mean Lindy Ruff finally decided to coach is how I look at it.
Even I've seen it all over social media, and the Devils even put the image up today about what the team's projected record would be when both Hughes and Nico were in the lineup, and our record, what their record is, and how that would portray out to like a 110-point season. And that's all great, but that's not reality. No. They weren't always in the lineup, and you were losing a lot of games. So all you had to do was make a couple tweaks. And I don't think it's a whole new system anyway. I really do think it's just a couple of minor things. And you need the All-Star break maybe to do it. And that's kind of why when we were talking during the year, we were talking about replacing the coach. I said, I don't think so. I think you got too much invested in this team and the way they play. You can't make that big of a change during the year. Something like this, you can make a little bit of a change, but it should have been done sooner.
You tweak things. You coach throughout the season. Yeah. You see something that's not working, you say, guys, maybe we tried it this way. Let's see how this goes this game. And
here's an idea. Your first 2 lines are out. Let's just trap for a while.
So, what happened? What we saw changes last year kind of happen on the fly, right? Like when they changed their style up a little bit each, every time they kind of got into a funk last year, they had to work their way out of it, and they changed some things up, and they moved the guys around. Was that Bruno? Was that, Lindy? Like, what caused this now? Was it finally Lindy, just deciding he was going to change some stuff up? Or did Fitzgerald sit him down and be like, dude, what are you doing?
I'd love to know. I don't know.
Awesome to know.
It's a great question.
Green? I'm so curious of that.
I don't know. I feel like, it's some low point was hit and they're like, okay, we're going to have to. And I do wonder, you got, I wouldn't say big personalities, but you got a lot of young guys on the team who are highly talented, and maybe they're allowed to drive the car a little bit more than they should. Maybe they're not being as actively coached, and while it was working for a certain point as they're needed to gain confidence, now there's like maybe a lack of direction. Because I do feel like we're at a point now where we can't have good offense and good defense from our team. So that tells you, that we don't have a clear message of what is expected. They look.
I like your last point because I still kind of feel, despite the success in the overall way they've been playing, I still kind of look at some of the line combinations. And I'm like, I just don't quite get it. Like, it doesn't seem right to me that that's the way you would put it down to have the ultimate success. Like, I know this whole tweaking, as I've been saying, of the system is why Jack's over on the wing. But what do we really feel about that? I mean, that's not a permanent thing. You're not making Jack a winger for real, right?
I agree with you. He's a center, and that's where he
still drives the play when it's going north.
Yes.
He goes in the center role. It's just in the defensive zone and the faceoffs and such.
I also worry more so with him going and battling in the corners more and stuff that, and doing winger to stuff like that. I worried a little bit more about this is not the best spot for little Jack. I don't want him getting creamed over there. At least when he plays that center position, for the most part, he can kind of avoid things a little bit more. I think he has a little bit more open ice. But back to the coaching thing, like if Tom Fitzgerald gets rid of Lindy Ruff this offseason, and I think it's going to happen, and I think it'll be anything short of a, Eastern Conference final appearance will get him fired. I think you're going to have to move on because, Dan, you hit the nail on the head there. Like, I believe what you said is correct, that he does give these guys a lot of leash. And, when you're a young team and you're like last year where you're just everything is working, right? Everything. It's very easy to coach that team, and it's very easy to be like, go ahead, do what you got to do, guys, because it was all working out. So the good coaches, when things aren't working out and you have the injuries and you're struggling, you have to make some changes. And Lindy now is doing it. I think could very well be too little too late. But if he gets fired, I think that you would. This is the hottest coaching job available out there. What good NHL caliber head coach would not be like, yes, please, Jack, Bratt, Nico, Timo. Like, yeah, I want to coach him. They could
for so long on such reasonable terms, meaning you could still bring in more over the next 7-8 years. That's quite incredible.
Yeah, and that's why I think that we talk about at some point, Tom Fitzgerald has got to find the goalie, the franchise goalie. He also has to go out and find that franchise coach, that coach that's going to take this team to another level. You look at the Florida Panthers, right? Kind of little lost in the wilderness a little bit, right? Like Andrew Burnett gets them through a great regular season, but they lose in the playoffs. And the guy wins the Jack Adams Trophy, and Florida fired him. And everyone said, what the hell are you firing Bruno for? Burnett did this, Burnett did that. But they brought in, oh, my God, I can't even fucking think of his name now. Oh, my goodness. Paul Maurice. They bring in Paul Maurice, who has coached this team to – I think they're going to win the Eastern Conference this year. They are the best team. They play so physical. They can play any style. Right? You want to hit, you want to score goals, you want to play a defensive style, then they can do it all. And Paul Maurice brought this team to a different level. And who's going to be that coach that's going to do that to this team? Because it's way too much talent to be doing what we've been doing. And yeah, the system, the coaching, that has to change. And I think you have to have the hard ass in here. I really do, because you always kind of have to flip. And I've heard like Lindy's a hard ass on the, in the locker room or at practice. I'm not buying that.
I just think he needs to have clear roles for everybody. I don't think that has been clear.
So I'd like to see a good coach. And this year, I hope it's not a wasted season. I really do. But if it is, I just hope that Tom Fitzgerald doesn't say, well, look at all the injuries we had. Let's give Lindy Ruff another chance. No, I don't want another chance for this guy. I want to move on from this coaching staff, and I want to get a really good head coach that has maybe won a Stanley Cup to come in here that knows what he's doing. Craig Berube, maybe, a guy like that.
I still like that move, even if the Devils do what I think they're capable of, but it gets less likely every game, which is, find that equilibrium between this, so-called new system and the scoring that they're capable of and actually play a good solid game. And they could make the playoffs this way. So they make the playoffs and let's say they even win 2 rounds. There's going to be a lot of people, this, a lot of people will be like, hey, with all the injuries, you got to bring back Lindy. I mean, come on, he had a lot of injuries this year. He got you to one more round than last year. How can you not keep him? I don't know. Right now, as I sit today, I think that this team definitely needs a coaching change in the future. I really do. And to next level, to become a little bit more of the hard-nosed professional as you become a young team into more of a veteran team. I don't think Lindy's the guy, but we'll see.
I agree. So I'll do a quick little shout out to the DraftKings Sportsbook here, our partners over at the Hockey Podcast Network. And then I want to ask you guys, see if you have an answer to the question that I texted you guys earlier, because I have mine. I want to talk about that. But we know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5. $5?
Yeah.
Quack, quack. And that's a good duck, Bob.
Thank you.
And get 200 instantly in bonus bets. Says here, mention available lines and odds from the DraftKings Sportsbook app for this week's game. Please do not provide betting advice or on how audiences should wager. Okay. So
bet everything. Bet everything.
I say go to DraftKings and then bet everything, like Dan said. But download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now with code THPN. New customers bet $5 on the NHL and get 200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. That crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Sorry. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved. So the question that I had texted you guys was, who would you like to see this incarnation of the New Jersey Devils play in a cup final to win a Stanley Cup? And I want to see if any of us have the same answers to this. So we'll start with you, Bob. Who do you want to see this team, if they ever make it to the Stanley Cup final and they're going to win the cup, who do you want to see them do it again?
And it's got to be a traditional East-West, right? I can't say
it has to be something that's possible.
Okay. So I actually thought a lot about this today. And one of the themes that came to mind right away was the Kings. I don't like the Kings. I feel they took one of our championships away. But then I got to thinking, like, the revenge thing's cool, but if the Devils were to beat the Kings, no one's going to say, oh, the Devils beat the mighty Kings. It would just be, the Kings got there too and the Devils won. So then I started thinking, so how cool would it be if, Jack Hughes and co., beats Edmonton, head-to-head with McDavid, and how awesome that would be. But ultimately, I'm going to combine the two and go with the revenge tactic against another team that took our Stanley Cup, the Colorado Avalanche. And how cool would it be to beat McKinnon and Makar with our young core? So I'll go Avalanche.
And Miles Wood.
Yeah.
I like Miles Wood, though.
Fuck him.
Yeah, fuck him. He's not here.
He doesn't play for us anymore. All right, so 2001 Stanley Cup rematch is what you want to see, except this time the Devils win and Colorado goes home crying.
And what's interesting about that is, of all the teams that have ever beaten any of my teams in like the final championship round, the Avalanche are like the only team I just don't hate. I just have never hated them. I've always loved the way they played. Mm-hmm. I hated when they beat us and they got all the attention with the Chris Drury thing and all that, but I just don't hate that team. But I do hate the Kings. And it's
also, I think, part of because I agree with you. I don't hate them, and I think, Dan, you don't hate Colorado. I enjoy watching Colorado. I like a lot of the guys on the team. I've said on this show many times, if I'm starting a hockey team right now, the first guy I go after is McKinnon. Mm-hmm. Even more, I might go after
Makar. Then you start a fantasy team,
right? So, I also think that Jersey, Colorado connection and also has something to do with it, maybe subconsciously, like we were there. Like that was kind of our
I think that's a bigger beat than if Edmonton got hot and made it to the finals. I think it's a bigger beat to beat a steady Colorado team who's pretty much a perennial contender right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a very good chance that there will be a rematch at some point with these two teams. I mean,
not with this coach, Ed.
Damn right. How about you, Dan?
Well, I thought along very similar lines as Bobby. I mean, definitely first thing I thought of was revenge games, and I thought about both those teams. I also think, like, in the end, you want to play the best team that is available. Like, so you look around the season, Edmonton, like you said, is a great call. It would be awesome to beat, the whole league and all of hockey media is going to be pulling for Connor McDavid's team to win. So if you beat them, that's great. So you really
Red
can't
Wings
do
all over again.
Yeah, exactly. You really can't do much better than that. As I do like being the David and Goliath thing. Vancouver is another great one too to pick, because when you with Vancouver, you got the Hughes matchup, three Hughes brothers. It's going to be fun to watch that.
Parents gonna have to wear split jerseys like in football.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if Vancouver is playing great hockey, which they have seemed to be capable of this year, and I think that would also be fun. I would say any of those four teams I would enjoy, probably in the order. Yeah, I would definitely take a swipe at beating the Kings, getting that cup back, so to speak, then Colorado. But I'm probably more excited about playing Edmonton, and then maybe ultimately Vancouver could be just a fun show.
All right, so you guys said the one that I was thinking too. I mean, Edmonton is the first one that always comes to your mind, right? Like being able to beat Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and just that, that's the one thing that's missing from Connor McDavid's trophy case. And if you're able to take that from him, I think that'd be pretty cool. And I don't hate Edmonton at all. I love watching that team play. But for me, like you said, you want to go back to the 2000 final. I'm going to go to 2003, but not Anaheim, but the brother thing. I'm going Vancouver. Yeah. I want to see Jack and Luke versus Quinn, and I want to see, Thanksgiving dinners be awkward for Quinn for the rest of his life. That's what I want.
Until he has to become a Devil.
Right. Until, the contract's up and he's like, all right, I can't beat him, join him. And he comes on over.
And just so everyone's clear, this is in reference to Scott Niedermayer. No, Scott, you don't leave. We get Rob here.
Right.
That was stupid.
It was backwards.
Yes. Yeah. And all he did was go there and win another cup.
Yeah.
Because that's Scott Niedermayer. Oh, man. How many Devils from those teams left and won cups? Okay, Scott won it with Anaheim, right? Rafalski won it with Detroit, right? He won a cup or so. And we know Claude Lemieux going to Colorado, but
immediately.
Is there anyone else that had left us prominent guys that went somewhere else and won a cup? Because I'm trying to think, and I really can't think of it. From those teams,
not too prominent that I can recall. I mean, we kept our defensive core and Marty, of course, and Ilyash never left. Yep. Arnott and Sakura,
no,
they did not win anything.
Arnott went to St. Louis, but he didn't win anything there. And
now and Langenbrunner won his with Dallas before us, right?
Right,
99, I think Dallas won, and then he got to us in
2002,
and he won the cup in 3. Gotcha. So, I mean, Vancouver or Edmonton. And also, I think that, the one thing that we've never done is beaten a Canadian team in the final. So that would be cool, too. I'd like to beat a Canadian team.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you then.
Yeah.
Keeping that streak going.
Exactly.
Right.
What's your question, Bobby?
You had another text going earlier about a potential road trip away game for the Puckers, right? So not even thinking about that, but just in general, where's the number one spot you'd want to go see the Devils play? Like we were talking about drivable in your text, right?
Yeah, but you're saying
is there an arena you want to go to, the place you'd like to see them away?
It doesn't have to matter where it is.
Nope.
We're not talking about practicality.
We've been to Montreal together and stuff like that. Just talking about where would you go if you can go to any arena right now and watch an away game?
I have a couple, and Vegas.
You can mention them all.
Vegas. Seattle, Vancouver, because I would love to go to BC. I've never been there. Those 3, but go to think about the rivalries and maybe Toronto. I think I'd like to go to Toronto to go to the Garden there and just watch the Devils beat up on Toronto. Because outside of the hatred that we have for the Rangers and the Flyers and the Islanders, Toronto's right there. I hate that team.
It's Canadian New York.
I can't stand that team.
Yeah, it's New York.
I don't like anyone on that team.
Yeah.
I maybe Toronto to go there and because their fans every time they've come to us and we've seen them in the playoffs and stuff, and their fans are fun. They like to jaw back and forth and so that would be a good time. What about you?
So
Colorado too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too.
Would be fun. Honestly, before my new answer, it would have been Montreal, but we already did that. And I'm glad we did that because it was perfect. It was everything I thought it would be as far as going to a visiting arena. So I'm with you. For some reason, I've got this real affinity with seeing Vancouver.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge Seattle Kraken. Like, I love the Kraken too, so I could do that too. But it's like drive over the border another hour and you're in Vancouver. So I think I would go there. It's just so far out of the way and so different. It's supposed to be such a beautiful city. I would go there.
Yeah, I'd love to do like a West Coast road trip and like hit, Anaheim and San Jose and Vancouver and Seattle. Like that would be awesome.
Anaheim's like not so wonderful of a place. I've been there. It's like, okay, it's Disneyland, and outside of that, it's just like whatever. But I definitely want to see the Pacific Northwest teams. I would love to see Vancouver and Seattle, two places I haven't been. But Colorado's great. I mean, if you go in the summer, you're in beautiful mountains. You go in the winter, you got beautiful mountains. I mean, it's just great. So that's tough to beat. But I always love the Canadian cities too.
They're awesome.
Toronto would be a close second too.
I think Ottawa would be fun.
Ottawa itself is kind of a dull city, though, in my opinion. I mean, I have been through there. We were in, of all places, New Brunswick, in a town called Edmundston. And there were some really cool people we met from Ottawa. So I'm sure Ottawa people are cool and it's fun in the right places. But, just like you get into a city, you get an impression. I thought Ottawa was it's like kind of going to Washington, D.C. It's like kind of boring,
Also, like, I don't know anything about the city, but ever since I was much, much younger, I've always had like this love for the Saddle Dome out in Calgary. Like, I would love to go. And I hear it's a shit stadium. It's falling apart.
And that's part of the charm. And you might step in cow shit on the way there.
That's what they have, though. That's it. Like, exactly. They got the Flames.
Yeah, and I would maybe think about Calgary too. So I mean, at some point, I'd love to go to every one of them. Mm-hmm. But I did see. I know you guys know this, but I did go see a Thrashers game in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. I'm one of the maybe 10,000 people that night. Not even. I'll say 6,000 people that got to see the juggernaut Arizona Coyotes at that time against the Atlanta Thrashers. What a game!
Yeah.
I don't even remember who won, but I know tickets were only $5. And there were nosebleeds. And then, like, after the first period, I'm like, there's nobody here. Why am I sitting all the way up here? I'm going to go all the way down. And I was on the ice level.
Imagine you bought that hockey franchise. You're selling tickets for $5 and you can't get half your stadium filled.
And now they're talking about
they would package that shit with like 3 hot dogs and a Coke too. Like, they would do whatever they could to get you in.
And now there's talk of Atlanta getting another franchise.
That is ridiculous, by the way.
If it hasn't worked twice, I don't know why. You know what? It's just that it's such a huge market.
It's a huge city.
Yeah, and it's like, why isn't hockey working here? We get it. We've gotten it to work in Tampa and in Florida and in Carolina. Why can't it work in Atlanta? When you think of it that way, it should make all the sense in the world. It should be a hockey hotbed. This big southern city should be, Tampa and Carolina and Florida and Atlanta. That should be all great rivalries.
Oh, they'd screw up the alignment somehow anyway and put us all in these weird divisions.
And put Atlanta in the West. And
maybe the worst logo in hockey, the Atlanta Thrashers.
Oh, that was
worst name.
I don't even understand what the logo was. Was it a bird or a tornado of a bird?
Exactly.
Tornado bird.
Bird in a tornado.
Yeah, it was a tornado.
How is that?
Stupid.
The dumbest, absolutely dumbest franchise name and franchise logo ever. And thank goodness they went back to Winnipeg, or to Winnipeg, because Winnipeg went to Arizona. This is so confusing, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I just hope we never move again.
About more, expansion in the next couple of years, whether it's Salt Lake City or it's Houston or it's, some city in Ohio they're talking. I've heard Kansas City.
I'd love to see more Northwest. Like, I always think about Oregon, but from what I hear, maybe Portland's just not big enough. But it would seem so cool to start to build up that corridor out there. Mm-hmm. Maybe take San Jose out or something.
I want to go to San Jose.
That would be cool. They have great basketball rivalries, with Portland and Seattle. I mean, that's like,
Seattle's not that.
Well,
anymore.
yeah, right. Right, but that's a big basketball town. So I don't know if that would work for hockey though.
But to our road trip, when we were saying, I think we should go to Columbus.
My vote's Columbus too. I've seen the Devils. in Boston. I've been to a DC game. We've all been to a Rangers game, Philly game, all that. I think Columbus is kind of that perfect little, just far enough away. Make it an interesting trip.
From what the guys in the Brew Jackets say, it's a great city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll hire us to be their general manager.
Maybe they can teach me something about beer.
Just fired Kekalainen.
Did. He had a good run. 11 years, though, right?
11 years, but
upper management.
But my goodness, what a shit show that whole organization is. The crazy thing is, like, he was there all these years with John Davidson. Like, we all remember JD, right, doing the color commentating for the Rangers back in the 90s and stuff. And then he went to St. Louis for a little while, management, and then he's with Columbus. He's been with Columbus forever. And him and Kekalainen were like blood brothers. And you fire the GM, but you're still there. Like all this stuff that happened. Like, I'm sorry, you're the president of hockey ops, dude. You need to go too. Like, why is this guy? It just doesn't make sense. Get rid of everybody.
Well, can you imagine that guy ever saying he was wrong?
No, unless he gave him carte blanche. You get to make every single decision, which I know can't be the case. President's always got to have a word. That's just a train wreck. In the beginning of the year, when we were doing our predictions for, just general seating, which is so hard to do. And we all thought the Flyers would be one of the bottom ones for legitimate reasons.
Bottom of the league, yeah.
But we also knew that Columbus doesn't have it.
No.
They don't. They're not pulling things right. They didn't. I know why getting Johnny Hockey would seem like the right thing at the time because he was kind of the hottest free agent, but it wasn't really the right thing for that team.
Well, let me ask you guys real quick. If Fitzgerald signs Gaudreau 2 years ago, and we all thought he was coming here.
Yes, we did.
Is Gaudreau the bust that he is in Columbus with us? Does he help this team, or can you seriously say no? I'm glad. Like, we dodged a bullet. We were all stupid. And
it's really hard to know, but I feel like he couldn't have been as bad as.
I don't think so either.
He wouldn't have been as bad, but could you imagine another small forward on our team? That's a problem.
I don't think it would have helped us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having him and Hughes and every Bratt and all these small.
Yeah, like what's the line? Him, Hughes, and you got to put a Timo on that line. Like, you need something to even up the weight.
But the Devils too. Like I just want to see, like, I don't know if it's going to happen this year. Or maybe it'll happen, for the remainder of the season. But like this system married to what we saw in the beginning of the year offensively is a dominant team. I thought the game against Nashville, that was a great game that the Devils played. They controlled pressure. They had the most offensive zone time. If it wasn't for Yossi Saros, we scored 7 or 8 that night. Right. And Saros just was ridiculous, especially in the first period. What do you make, 21 saves? That's ridiculous. But, like, just put it together. I mean, what are you guys expecting Saturday night before we wrap it up? We're going to come on Sunday after the, kind of digest the Stadium Series for a night.
Because an 8 o'clock start with all the festivities isn't really puck drop till like 8:30, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's going to be late.
Imagine how drunk everyone would be by the time the game,
Damn, makes me wish I was going.
But,
I haven't got drunk like that in years.
So what are you expecting? Are we going to pull this thing out, or is this going to be one of the biggest fucking disappointments of the year?
It's the scariest game that I look on the schedule for the next week and a half. It really is. Not only because we're chasing them, but because it has every opportunity for this whole thing with New Jersey. We're going to focus on New Jersey for us to just go in there and fucking shit the bed. And I'm really scared about it. I do think they're going to pull it off, though. I do think they're going to pull it off. And I think you had mentioned, Chris, that this was the week you're going to go on a run. Obviously, you got a loss in there already. I do think that with a win in Philly, that we win next week clean after that. I think that's the beginning of our run.
Well, next week we have like the Anaheim and San Jose's. And
we got the Capitals, the Rangers, and the Canadians.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to the Canadians game with my kid. It's his first game ever.
Nice. He
decided Dawson Mercer bobblehead.
Nice.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
What about you, Dan? What are you expecting to see Saturday?
This is so hard to answer, honestly. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure we're going to get there. I would love to see us get off to a good start. I mean, we saw him playing behind against a tough team tonight, and it didn't work out. And I can imagine so many ways this goes south. I'm not going to lie. so many different ways this goes south for us.
I keep thinking about our last outdoor game against the Rangers.
Yeah.
Just so hyped, and it's like 5-2 or
and it
something.
bums me out to say that because, I was looking at this game earlier in the season as it should be fun.
Wash.
It should be kind of nice. It should be fun. I wish they had a better opponent for us. And boy, has that flipped on me. I don't know if we're an equal opponent for the Flyers right now. I think we could be. And I think if we get it together, we could destroy them. And that would be, we could be sitting here and saying, wow, what an effort, what a dominant performance. It can happen. But if I got to put odds on it, I'd say the odds are like 2-1 against us that we will not win this game. That's just the fairest odds I could put on it. It's not what I want.
And isn't it such a shame, like how jaded like we've become this year? Like, we could go out there and put 6 on Philly, but we haven't seen these signs that this is gonna, that this is gonna progress and we're gonna get better and better. Like we had a rough loss tonight. Now back earlier in the season, that would be compounded by a really bad loss and then another bad loss until we finally get our shit together. Like we had the bad loss against Calgary, and then we had that just almost really bad loss against Carolina, but then we cracked 2 off. Can they put this behind them? Because the one thing I have noticed that I think is been a huge upgrade so far since the All-Star break. We have let goals in, and you can just tell that that's it. And we are buckling down and having good second, third shifts after that, and then we just go about playing our game.
It has been a major improvement. Absolutely.
Yeah, this letting 5 in, 3 in, 4 in a matter of 5 minutes is now kind of seems like that's a thing of the past.
Let's hope so.
Because that was killing us. I mean, that was absolutely. You cannot win games,
and that's majorly embarrassing on a big stage like that.
In the grand scheme of things, I will take this team and their effort and that outcome today, and be more confident going to the playoffs than rattling off 5-1 and doing all this crazy shit.
Right.
So in that way,
But you got to beat Philly. This is big because it's not just the points too. It's also you got to let them know we're coming for you. Now, look what we just did to you tonight, and we're coming for you. So you better play a little scared because we're right up your ass and we're going to knock you out, and you're not going to make the playoffs because we are. That's got to be the mentality. It's got to be the message they send on the ice.
I think you and me and all the fans, and that is exactly what we're waiting for tonight, was another one of those things where we can't get that full traction. We're right there. We win tonight. It's 7 out of 8 points in the last 4 games going into Philly, but instead – we're back to a loss. Now you're worried about what's going to happen in Philly because a back-to-back loss. Really, now we're 9 points behind Philly or whatever. Yeah. So it's just the way this season's been going. We need that one. It doesn't even need to be a long streak. 3-4 wins in a row.
Right. We haven't won 3 in a row since December.
Just solid 3-4 in a row.
We do have to go at that pace of 3 out of 4. We're going to make the playoffs. And if we can't do that, it's a problem. So if you can't win 3 in a row, like we haven't since December, in 2 months now, that's going to be a problem. So, the time is now, right? You can't ask for any later. It's got to be now.
Crack off a win on Saturday. That's 3 out of 4 this week. Did we play Sunday?
And my perspective changes. No, we don't play again until Tuesday after that.
So Tuesday, all right. So I mean that's your 3 out of 4, and you put this loss behind you. But it's such a big freaking game because, like you said, 9 points with maybe 2 games in hand by the time it's all said and done. Like you might not make that.
It's actually really freaking cool that this is basically a playoff game, outdoor.
Yeah,
with all the fanfare and shenanigans. Sure, I wish it was just a regular game, but it really does put a lot of intrigue into this game. And most of the outdoor games, they're just for show. Because they're in January. You don't really know what's on the line. We know what's on the line.
Yeah, this is a big game.
It's literally on the line.
Yeah. And it's a big game Sunday for the Islanders and the Rangers because the Islanders are still fighting for to knock us out. So every game is so friggin' important, and not just us. It's the entire place. It's going to be a lot of fun on the way. The last 30 games, man. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, definitely.
And all right. So, anything else you guys want to talk about tonight?
That covers it.
We're good.
Oh yeah, one last thing. I did see something, and did you see Allmark get that fine of $5,000 or whatever the hell it was?
No.
I don't know if you saw it. He was playing against what's the game? I don't even remember how to pronounce the dude's name, but it was a Lightning player coming in the crease and basically elbowing him in the head. As he goes down, he takes a swat where he doesn't even connect with his stick. And the league finds him. Like this, it's crazy the open season on the goaltenders that the league has now. They gone so far now. It's like any kind of retaliation, regardless if it connects or not, they're going to find the goaltender, let alone not even protect him.
I didn't see the play.
Yeah, I urge you to take a look at it when you get a chance. It is pretty crazy. I couldn't believe that there was not only a non-call on SNY, or I don't know how to say his name, but they ended up finding Almond for swinging his stick at him and not even connecting. It was crazy.
Now, what do you guys think of the Morgan Riley suspension, the 5 games? What do you think of the whole play? I mean, you guys saw it, right?
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very goofy. Yeah.
Okay, so I know we're going to wrap it up, so try and make it quick. And everybody has talked about this ad nauseum except us. So the slap shot into the empty net. Mm-hmm. I get that that's disrespectful, but there's that big side of me, probably more so, that's like, dude, seriously? Like, the guy showed a little bit of personality, and you tracked him down 60 feet and cross-checked him in the head, dude. Like, to me, that part of the game needs to go. Not this, this showboating. Oh, let's market our players, but don't do anything that you might, make you stand out or make somebody remember you. Like, if we're really getting upset because you took a slap shot into an open net, like, dude, how many times do you see football players go into the end zone and they start just doing that high step walk with the ball out and they're just taunting you and everything? Like, in hockey, that's what upsets us? Like, come on, man.
I mean, I don't love it. I don't love the showboat and stuff, but it doesn't bother me, and I don't see the point of getting involved with something like that. And I think the retaliation on that is far worse. These guys. I mean, I still can't get over the fact that Trouba got nothing for hitting that guy clearly in the with two-handed with sticking towards the head. I mean,
that's fucking intent right there.
It was ridiculous. That's the kind of stuff you don't want in this game. That's where you look like a bunch of clowns. The stick work stuff is ridiculous. This other stuff, I mean, it's a little personality. It probably would help. I bet you marketing people would tell the NHL that you probably do want to emulate some of the other sports that way. Personally, I don't love it, but I think the league has bigger problems.
So, do you think it's disrespectful? Is that what you think?
I don't know about
hockey kind of.
I mean, I wouldn't say. I don't know if I'd use the word disrespectful. I think that it's a little bit like I don't know. It's a little cheesy. I kind of appreciate people who act like they've been there before. But that's just me and my sentiment. It doesn't mean that that's what everybody wants. I can see why younger fans of other sports where that is more personality when they score. And let's face it, like the celebrations, the sellies after the goals have gotten bigger over the years. Like, you don't see
now the NHL just send like a memo out that they're going to fine. I think they're going to fine people for doing the gritty after they score a goal, like that kind of stuff. Like if you're an empty net and you have a shot at it, I want to see somebody, do a lacrosse style around the net, around the goal, and then toss it into the empty net and give everybody else the finger on the other bench. Yeah. That's what I want to see.
Well, I saw this video. These guys, I don't know who they were. It's just like some guys on the ice, and they're just doing different, shots he could have done. And the best one of all the goofy ones they came up with was, you lay down and you hold a stick at the butt end like a pool cue,
right,
and shoot it in.
I want to see that.
Yeah, why not?
I want to see somebody do that in empty netter. And
I can't say I want to see it, but it ain't going to ruin my day, and I don't want the league to do anything about it.
But, I just think, like, here's a kid who, took the slap shot. It wasn't even it wasn't even that big of a deal. And to just go after him like that and headhunt him, like, the game's over, man. Like, that just shows that you're weak, Like, you can't handle even a little bit of getting under your skin. Like, come on, man. I don't know.
It's a very Canadian thing, too. It's a cultural thing. Canadians always looked at themselves as, we're not those vulgar Americans,
Yeah, I know.
They kind of are now, and they don't know it, and they don't want to believe it. And, they kind of don't want at least some of the older ones there, they don't want their league to turn into an American league,
I kind of, I don't agree with that, but I get it. I understand.
Listen. Yeah, it's douchey in a way. It really is. However, I didn't see the context of the game. Like, I don't know how tight that game was. I don't know how close they were to scoring. I can see me being both sides of that play. I could see me being like, this game, I'm just so psyched up. I'm hyped. I got the empty net. Bam! I'm just going to throw it in.
You shoot wide, Bob. You shoot it wide.
I would probably shoot it wide. That's not the point. But I could also see me being the guy who saw that happen and like just charge over to the other guy. I'm not going to elbow him in the head. I'm not going to,
Sure.
hurt him, but I'm certainly going to get in his face. So I can understand both sides. But overall, I think it's a little too much. But I mean, is it enough to, make everybody talk crazy shit about it? Probably
what
not.
You said, I think it's douchey. I agree. It was douchey. That's what I liked about it.
You liked it.
I liked that and even though it was a Toronto player, it was Toronto got the penalty. So who were they playing?
Senators.
Ottawa. Yeah. So I liked that it was douchey.
Let me put it this
because
way.
It was against Toronto.
Let me put it this way.
Okay. Somebody does that to
if
us.
your slap shot's douchey, fine. If you actually took that empty net, went around, and did a wraparound, I invite Riley to decapitate you. That's just stupid.
If you have the balls to do it, you better be ready for what's coming. If you have the balls to do something like that, I don't think this was that egregious that deserved him getting a cross check to the face. I would love to see somebody have the balls to do that, or just like you said, dive down on the ground and just pop it in like
how much the time it takes to kind of pull cue awesome. It? You'd be getting WWE'd in the back with an elbow.
But just to see people starting to do more crazy shit on an empty net, I would love to see that. Just because I know how many people get so bent about that, and to me, it's a fucking big deal. It's a goal. You weren't winning the game; it was going in no matter what. So what? They threw a little class on it.
And they're trying two separate conversations. At no point, if you want to stand up for hockey, you didn't need to elbow him in the head. You could have just gone to fight him.
Yeah,
drop the gloves. And
what he did was solely off base for sure. Yeah. But I definitely don't. I don't have a problem with him taking him down and being like, "That's fucked up, kid."
And here's how I feel: if you're going to do that, then you better be ready to drop the gloves, or you better be ready to have somebody come at you. I don't know if this kid really saw him. I mean, it looked like he kind of saw him coming in, so he was able to brace himself a little bit. I don't think he was thinking that the guy was going to come and cross check him in the face. I just thought probably thought that he was going to have to fight, or just a little shoving, whatever. But if you're willing to do it, you better take whatever punishment, as long as that punishment is legal. I don't want to see people getting cross-checked in the head, but that would make hockey better. I'd love to see the guys like Jack Hughes and those skilled players do stupid, crazy shit in empty nets and then just have melees afterwards. I think that's how you should end every hockey game.
It's our recommendation to the commissioner.
Yes, Mr. Bettman, listen to the show and take it into consideration. So, wherever you're listening to us, drop us a line, unclepuckers@gmail.com, or you can DM us or reach us on Twitter X at unclepuckers. Wherever you're listening to us, a 5-star review, download I guess that's about it.
Bye-bye.
It goes a long way. Too soon? We're leaving. So, for Bobby Dan, I'm Chris. We are the Uncle Puckers, and we will see you when we see you.
Puckers out.
Which will be after the Stadium Series.
Now I really want to go.
You should go.
I should.
I'll be watching it on tape delay.